morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well and I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning back to my channel. And if you're new, my name is Josie and my channel focuses on helping families with their move to the Silver Coast area of Portugal. So in today's video, I wanted to go over homework in Portugal. So as you guys may know, if you've watched my previous videos, my children all attend a private Portuguese school here in the Silver Coast area. And I don't know about you, but when I was looking at schools in Portugal, I knew I wanted to go down kind of the private Portuguese route or even the public school. I did kind of look into international schools just because I did want my children to continue speaking English and grow and learn English as a language. But living in Portugal, I always wanted my children to learn the language and immerse themselves and integrate as much as possible, just because we plan on living in Portugal for an unknown amount of time. So as a person who is not fluent in Portuguese, and I will say I have been learning and I will continue learning because that is a goal to, be pretty decent in speaking Portuguese, just because, again, if you plan on living here long term, you really want to learn the language. I will say in the Caldas area, there are a lot of people that speak English. So if you are a person that doesn't necessarily want to learn the language or have difficulties learning new languages, you can easily get by. But for myself and my goals, I do want to learn the language as much as I can so I don't have to rely on others to help me do daily tasks or deal with bureaucracy. Even though I do now need people to help me with it, that is my goal, to get to that level. Anyway, so when it comes to homework, obviously everything is taught in Portuguese if you plan on going to a Portuguese school. So myself and my husband, we obviously try to help our children as much as possible when it comes to homework. I'm more in charge of the homework than my husband, just because I think my Portuguese is a little bit more advanced than his. But I wanted to create this video today to kind of help show you how I deal with homework here, and also to kind of give you an insight on what they're learning in school, because that was also something that I wanted to know myself. It's like, what does first grade learn? What does second grade learn? And so forth and so forth. I can only really show you what they learn in first and second grade, just because those are the grades that my children are in. If your child is older, I will try to reach out to school to see if they can help me obtain some information as far as what their grades learn. This video is going to focus on first and second grade. So, and I should also say that this material that I'm going to show you is what my children use. Every school is going to be different. Public school, private school, doesn't matter. They may use the same material, but I'm sure that they're going to probably learn the same things if they don't use these books. So when my children first enrolled in the school, we had to go to their stationery store to buy all their material. I think you could probably find these online too, but for us, it was just easier going there because they already knew what each class needed. So it was easier to be like, okay, my children is going to be in first grade, and they're gonna be like, okay, here's a list of what is needed, and they pull everything out and you just pay for it, you walk away and everything's there. So I'm one of those people that I would rather pay maybe a little bit more. I don't know if they charge more, but I would rather pay a little bit more just for them to gather everything, so I don't have to run around different stores asking different people if they have certain things. Anyway, so all right, so I just wanted to record the 3 courses that they typically have. So they have Portuguese, they have Estudo do Meio. It's kind of like world studies almost. I thought it was science initially, but it's actually kind of like a world studies. And then they have their math. The first book that they use is this math book. Now, since I'm helping her with her homework daily, I kind of obviously see what they're learning as well. And one of the questions you may ask is, how much homework do they actually get? And I will say they come home, I think 1 or 2 days a week. I think it's just 1 day a week, where they come home with homework and it's due like a few days later. So they might come home on like a Wednesday and have homework that's due that following Friday, or they may come home on Monday with some homework that's due like Wednesday or Friday. So they give you a couple of days, and really the homework is just something that they have to finish. They weren't able to complete it in class. I am actually kind of surprised how much homework that they get. I don't know, some people are used to their children not having any homework at this grade. My children will come home with maybe 2 or 3 worksheets, which are rather simple. or they'll have writing, like they'll do their cursive work, or they'll do their math work, and I'll just kind of go over all this with you. Anywho, so they have a math book, and they use this math book in school too. So sometimes they'll have it for homework if they didn't finish something in school, or they'll use this in class. So for instance, my children are learning their shapes. This is first grade, so they'll learn their shapes. They're gonna learn their addition, basic addition. I think she just went over that. They're gonna learn patterns and, you know, like figuring out their numbers and counting that. To me, this is kind of what they learned in kindergarten back in the States, but it's always nice to have a refresher, especially when it comes to vocabulary. The kids don't know all the Portuguese vocabulary, obviously, so it's nice to be able to say, you know, what 11 is in Portuguese, and then kind of give them a review of what they learned in kindergarten. This one here is their caderno de treino. It is pretty much the same thing kind of in math. Well, it is math. So I don't know if you could see all this, and I'm going to try to show it in the video as much as I can, but it's just more math in this book, but they haven't really used this one as much. Now this one is also caderno, and this one I believe is more of their more of their reading and pronunciation, as well as their cursive writing. So I do really like the fact that in Portugal they still teach cursive. I know back in the States, one of my friends just told me that they started implementing it again. So over here, they have, just like back in the States, they teach you how, like syllables, and they teach you, they teach you chunk words. So they like CH would be like a ch, right? So they do the same thing here in Portugal, where they have chunk word or chunk letters, I guess chunks, where they teach you how to pronounce certain combinations of letters and the sounds with that. So it's very similar as what we do back in the States, but they do it here, obviously, with the Portuguese pronunciation. So this whole book here is all about their cursive, pronunciations, learning different words, activities. So that's that. Then they also have the Estudo do Meio. So over here, this is where they kind of, okay, so I thought it was kind of like science, but it's not science. It is kind of like world living, almost. I don't know, that's the best way to describe it. But it's like they learn the rooms in the house. So they learn like families, right? So like the grandmother, grandfather, so the vocabulary for that. They learn, so she just finished this one. So the rooms. So like quarto, sala, cozinha, garagem, hotel, and then they'll have to write it in here and then color it too. And the same thing here. This one over here, we just finished this actually yesterday, where I'll have to read the description here and they have to circle it. So a lot of her homework that I help her with is me reading this, then translating it, and then her then deciding what it is. So how do I do it? Someone that doesn't speak Portuguese or very limited Portuguese, help my daughter with her Portuguese homework? Well, I will say I am able to read and understand most of this without using a translator, and that's mainly because I was taking Portuguese classes before, so I can kind of get an idea of what it is. Now, I don't know if my pronunciation is 100% correct, and I think that's something the teacher will just have to train my children on, but I'm going to read it as much as I can with as correct of pronunciation as I can, and then words that I don't know, I actually use an app called Deeple that I will put whatever I don't understand in that, and then it will translate it. And what's also nice about that app too is that you can press the sound button and it will actually read it with the proper pronunciation. So that is something I use when I don't understand certain things. But for the most part, if you can see the words, like divisão is like room, onda is where, and then you kind of get an idea. So I'll read that out, then she'll circle it, and that's how I deal with the homework. And then also the Portuguese first ano, this is kind of where they again write a lot of words, they'll say a lot of sentences, they'll read a lot over here. So I'll read over this, then I'll translate it, and then if they have questions below, I'll then read it, translate the sentence, and then they'll have to then tell me what it is, and then we'll figure out the answers together. But for the most part, it's really nice because I tend to learn a lot of words with them, especially the vocabularies that I had no idea. So this is a great way to learn Portuguese with your children. I feel like I'm in the first grade too, because my Portuguese is probably the extent of first grade, second grader. So it's really funny because here we are when you're learning a new language. And for those that don't understand what A2, B1 is, like A1 is kind of beginner, where you're learning your very basic greetings, how to respond in a very basic manner, like hi, how are you, that type of thing. A2 is kind of where you start to really understand very basic stuff when people speak to you, and you're able to then respond back in a very basic manner. So I kind of think of it as, if I'm talking to my 2-year-old, I have a 3-year-old, but let's just say it's a 2-year-old kid, and you say something to them, they understand what you're saying for the most part, but they really can't communicate very much back to you other than like basic one sentence response. Or grammatically, they're going to forget a lot of prepositions but get the point across. So they're going to be able to say like 3 words. So like I'm a little more than that, and then B1 is more advanced, where you're able to communicate far better with like past tense, present, and future tense. And then B2, then it goes up to C2, right? So there's A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. And C1, C2 is more like university level. So it's kind of amazing where you're working towards this A2, B1, and really in all actuality, you're pretty much in first, second grade learning. So it's kind of funny when I'm going through this, I'm like, okay, I don't know this word. Okay, this is kind of interesting. And then I have to kind of remember that this is my level. So I really need to focus on their schoolwork. So again, with their homework, we just sit down, we go over everything. I use my Google Translate. It's a great way for you as the parent to learn, as well as the children. And don't be alarmed where you get to a point where your Portuguese is just that you're at the extent of your Portuguese. What I plan on doing with my children is, if and when we get to that point, I will then probably hire, someone to help them with Portuguese. But the good thing about at least my private Portuguese school, I'm sure it's probably available to most schools, where they have an after-school homework help. So once my children get to that point, I may look into enrolling them in their homework help activity that you pay just a smaller fee for them to help them with their schoolwork. Or I will then look into, a Portuguese babysitter who can then help with their schoolwork. Anyway, I hope that kind of helped. I know, again, it's something that's very daunting and could be a challenge for some, but I do find that the Depot app works really well. And then, of course, it's a great opportunity for you as a parent to learn Portuguese. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. Ciao!